Ancient Way Sesshin Talk number 3, October 2024. The title of this talk is Zen and the Experience of Intimacy, or Zen and the Intimacy of Experience. Maybe we'll know at the end of the talk which is the better title. Zen and the Experience of Intimacy, Zen and the Intimacy of Experience. Well, good afternoon to all of you here in the Zendo and those of you who are online. It's really impressive to be amongst so many ardent practitioners. Amazing that so many people want to practice like this. It takes a lot to get here. I know, setting aside 2 weekends and a whole week. I was looking, and 10 years ago, there were 9 people who came to this sesshin to practice, in addition to whoever the residents were at that time. And even 5 years ago, there were 14. And now there's 27 people who came, in addition to those who were already in residence here practicing Ango. So this sesshin has tripled in size. This sesshin we call the Ancient Way. And as Hogan said, we've had different titles. It's been Walking the Ancient Way. This year it's the Ancient Way. Back when I was new, it was called Longing for the Ancient Way. And I was always inspired by that name, Longing for the Ancient Way. It fits the heart's longing. It fit this longing. And that longing was part of, it was a name for something that was just simply an experience, but it hit the mark. So what does your heart long for? And what does your heart long for, such that you would devote this bit of your life to this kind of practice? What does your heart long for, that you would devote your life to practice like this? You look around and see there are others who long like you do for the Ancient Way. There are many people here in this Zendo who are in their 2nd decade, 3rd decade, 4th or 5th decade of practice. And they came to this sesshin. So allow yourself to support each other and be supported by the centuries of Zen practice that are in this room. And that's just the Buddha ancestors that we can see in this room. That's not even the Buddha ancestors who are here with us, not in the physical form, not in a way that we could touch or bow to them. We could bow to them. Couldn't hug them, though. So the ancestors are here as well, helping us along. So as we sincerely and wholeheartedly engage the practice, there is a power, a heat, an energy that is co-created by the power of our intention, by the jiriki power, the zazen energy of our practice. So we can put our delusions and self-centered views Allow them to be transformed by the heat of the practice here. I'm wondering if I can have a clock so that I don't filibuster. Thank you so much. So experience. Hogan yesterday talked over and over again that practice is about experience. Zazen is about experience. So here's a poem by the poet Qianju. The experience of studying Zen is like hiding your body in fire. Even if you have iron guts and a brass heart, here they will surely melt and flux. The experience of studying Zen is like hiding your body in fire. Even if you have iron guts and a brass heart, here they will surely melt and flux. The experience of studying Zen. So what is this experience of studying Zen? The poet doesn't mean reading a book. We could say that's the studying of Zen. Reading books, listening to talks like this one can be useful, of course. Hopefully something in this talk will be useful. Taking a class, talking with others about the Dharma, all of this is useful. And the Buddha even encouraged it. Indeed, in the Mangala Sutta, he says, these are the highest blessings. Sharing words of the Dhamma. So it's more than studying, discussing, thinking about Zen. And all of you know this, of course, or you wouldn't be at a 10-day sesshin. But what is this experience of studying Zen? It has to be experienced. In this way, the poet fails us, or at least the translator fails us. Study of Zen can make us think that there's something out there that needs to be looked at, somewhere else, something to be understood, something to be grasped, something to be apprehended, that Zen is somewhere else, and that I can get it and then look at it. But the experience of studying Zen, and maybe we can take out the studying part for a moment and just say, experiencing Zen is nothing more than wholehearted experiencing, alert awareness of the way things are. So Zen other is no other than reality as it is. And apprehending that, experiencing that through intimate experiencing. I like this poem where he says that even with a brass heart and iron guts, here they will surely melt and flux. This is that all the hard parts in us can soften through the practice, flux, move, become supple. The hardened heart defended, our armor, here in the fire of Zen, a fire that we walk into, that softening comes. So what is this intimacy? Intimate, 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 intimate. So what is intimacy? How do you know that you're being intimate with your life, with your experience, with what's happening? And how do we do this? What does it mean to be intimate? Here's a koan. It's from the Book of Serenity, Case 20. Not knowing is most intimate. It points the way, or points a way. Guichen asked, so a little bit in reverse. So Fayan is on a pilgrimage. He stops by a temple, a Jizo temple, that to get out of the rain. And the only monk there takes him in and starts up of a conversation. And Guichen is the let's call him the abbot of the temple. He asks, "Where are you going?" Fayan replied, "On an ongoing pilgrimage." Guichen said, "Well, why do you go on a pilgrimage?" Another way that this is translated is, what is the purpose of your pilgrimage? What are you doing? Fayan replied, "I don't know. I don't know." Guichen said, "Not knowing is most intimate." At these words, Fayan was awakened. It woke him up in some way, woke his heart up, softened him. So what are we to make of this koan? Guichen asked, "Where are you going?" And is often the case in the koans, this is not making small talk. In this case, the koans, this is a kind of a testing question. What is your direction? What is your purpose? What is your intention? Why are you at Sesshin? Where are you going? He asked. And Fayan replied, "On an ongoing pilgrimage." Which is interesting because we might say, well, I'm going to this sacred grotto to pray to Mary, or I'm going to this famous temple to make offerings. But Fayan said, I'm on an ongoing pilgrimage. So in a way, aren't we all, some of you quite literally are. You came from a long distance to be here, kind of pilgrimage. Aren't we all longing for that ancient way, walking the ancient way? On an ongoing pilgrimage, he replied. And another way this is translated is, I am wandering on a pilgrimage. So if he said, I'm going to the next temple, that would be, he's got a purpose, an agenda. But Fayan, by saying, I'm on an ongoing pilgrimage, he's pointing to, he's practicing with the way things are as they arise. Having longed for the ancient way, he is walking it, just as you are walking it. So the ongoing pilgrimage is our zazen. It's our own zazen. The alert awareness of this very experience, the pilgrimage which comes from nowhere and goes no place. Because there's nowhere else, there is no place else, there's nowhere to go than this experience. I'm on an ongoing pilgrimage. The ongoing pilgrimage is in your very seat with this very breath. The pilgrimage is the coolness of your in-breath. the warmth of the out-breath is the sound of the wind and traffic. Guichen says, why do you go on a pilgrimage? Why do you go on pilgrimage? What is the purpose of your pilgrimage? He's trying to pin him down. Why do you go on pilgrimage? Is this really an aimless pilgrimage? Fayan replied, I don't know. I don't know. So he's partway there. Fayan is partway there. And Guichen meets him and says, not knowing is most intimate. Not knowing is most intimate. And at these words, Fayan woke up. This is a different kind of intimacy than the conventional way that we think about it. We think about intimacy as like, oh, I really know this person, or I really know this place. The intimacy we're talking about is not knowing, not having our ideas, not putting things, because the kind of knowing where it's like, oh, I know them really well. It basically encases them in stone, because there's nothing else to see. So what is this not knowing? What is this not knowing, this intimacy of not knowing? How do we become intimate in the not knowing? Within the causes and conditions of our life, it's both a profound receptivity and a turning towards. When we first sit down, when we begin, I am feeling the breath. I am counting the breath. I am hearing sound. I am listening, feeling the body, feeling the hands. I feel the body moving as it's breathing. That's good. That's good that we're doing that. It's good that we've started. We've started on the pilgrimage. And more we're staying. At first I'm following the breath, and then we go into habitual thinking, or we get distracted, or we space out, or we fantasize, or we get irritated, or all the things that pull us away. And what we need, the way that we engage in the pilgrimage of Zazen is through persistence. We keep walking. We keep walking. We go from I'm feeling the body moving as it's breathing. In that way, so how do we get more intimate? Well, we're standing outside. The breath is out here. I'm watching the breath. So, becoming closer and closer. The other way that this is, when Guichen says, not knowing is most intimate, the other way this is translated is nearness. Not knowing is nearness, being near. So we go from standing on the outside of our experience, the outside of our breath. I am here and I am experiencing my practice. I'm observing my practice. I'm evaluating my practice. That's still on the outside. We can draw closer. When we notice that's happening, that's an opportunity. It's like a mindfulness bell. It's like, bing, I'm separate. I'm outside of the experiencing. As soon as I start to evaluate or have an opinion or discriminate in any way, like, oh, this is bad, this is good, that's an invitation to become closer. So Dogen says in the Genjo Koan, the way to close this gap, he says, to carry the self forward and realize the 10,000 dharmas is delusion, that the 10,000 dharmas advance and realize the self is enlightenment. So to carry the self forward and realize the 10,000 dharmas is phenomenon. It's also the 10,000 things. So in a way, he's saying the 10,000 dharmas advance and realize the self as enlightenment. So maybe we take a step back and allow the breath to come to us instead of stepping forward. How can I know more about this breath? We become more and more receptive, more and more open, more and more not knowing what is happening. Just experiencing. Becoming closer and closer, nearness, nearness, nearness. Allow the breath to come to you. Allow the sounds to come to you. Allow the body sensations to come forward. Quiet and still, alert and aware. Not passive. This isn't a withdrawing. This is alert and aware. Noticing the tendency of the self to try and step forward and get in the mix. Experiencing the breath within the breath as the breath. Experiencing sounds within the sounds as the sounds. Closing the gap in this way to carry the self forward and realize the 10,000 dharmas is delusion. That the 10,000 dharmas advance and realize the self is awakening. So this I, me, and mine, what about it? We've just said it's a big problem. It's interfering. It wants attention, focus. What is this I, me, and mine? We can get intimate with what that is too. I, me, and mine. I, what does I want? What does I want? It wants attention. It wants protection. It wants to be appreciated. And it doesn't want to be ignored. There's this experience of constant self-referential chatter reinforcing itself. Here's what I think. Here's what I think they should do. I'm afraid this is going to happen. They're doing it wrong. I'm doing it wrong. Thoughts about I reinforcing the I. And it's just exhausting to attend to this self. Maybe we should just get rid of it. Right? We can use our powers of meditation to breathe it away. Breathe away the small self. Let's just get rid of it. It's a big problem. But we're not going to, that's upside down. We're not moving from clinging to the self to now practicing aversion to the self. Second noble truth. The first noble truth is human beings all have difficulties, stress, anxiety. You all know this. The second noble truth is that is due to clinging and aversion. So we don't want to engage in aversion to the self, pushing it away. That's just more division. So we're not trying to kill the self. We're not trying to destroy the self or cut it out. So we can also practice intimacy with it. It's not, and really explore, what is this I, me, and mine? Where is it? Where do we experience it? Is it thoughts? Is it only thoughts? I feel the I in my body. Feelings. Does the I feel positive or negative or neutral? One of the reasons why we practice concentration, why we want to establish concentration so that we can hold the mind in receptivity to be able to see for ourselves, to explore the territory. So you can close your eyes right now. Where is the self? It's unfindable, and yet we experience it. What is that about? So it's not that the self doesn't exist. Even though it's unfindable, we still experience it, the self. It just doesn't exist in the way that we think it does. It's a fundamental misknowing. Fundamental misknowing. I like that word that the Dalai Lama's translator uses that for ignorance, which we talk a lot about in Buddhism, that the cause of suffering, foundation of birth and death and suffering is fundamental ignorance. And that has a pejorative connotation in the English language. So he uses the word misknowing. It's a mistake. It's just off, not seeing it clearly. So here's a story that might help us look at how to regard the self and our experience. So this is an ancient story from India, from the Vedantic tradition. There once was a man who was deathly afraid of snakes. One night, he went on a walk to see if he could look at the Milky Way. He walked along a dirt road all on the way to town. It was night, but he'd walk this path all the time. A gentle wind was blowing. The man kept walking when up ahead he saw a clearing where the trees weren't so thick, so that he could get a view of the stars. Then he was stopped cold when he saw a poisonous snake in the tree right next to him. He froze. His heart was pounding. He broke into a cold sweat. Ominously, the wind picked up, and all of a sudden the snake dropped out of the tree. The man shrieked with fear and ran for his life. He outran the snake. He escaped. At home, he told his family about how he encountered the poisoned snake and barely escaped. It took him a while to calm down enough to sleep. The next day he had to go to town, so set off to walk along the same path as the night before. Even though surely the snake was gone by now, he set off with some trepidation. Up ahead was the place with the clearing. He got more and more nervous. There was the snake. It was still there. He picked up a stick to fend it off if he needed to. As he got closer, he noticed it wasn't moving. Maybe it was dead. Closer, closer. Then he saw it was a rope. It was a rope. all along. So can you see that the I, me, and mine is like this? What if I, me, and mine, the small self, is like this rope? It's not that the small self isn't real. We have the experience of sensations, feelings, emotions, thoughts. Those are real. We put all those together and say, this is me. And then there's the cascade of activities, strategies, in order to protect the territory. The mind that discriminates this from that says this conglomeration of form, of feelings, emotions, and thoughts is separate from everyone else, everything else. And all of these experiences of anxiety, of happiness, of emotion are real. But what if they aren't true or completely true? What if I, me, and mine is as real as the snake? The experience is real, long, coiled, moving in the tree by the wind. But what if it's just a rope? This belief in the small I, me, and mine obscures reality in the same way that the man's belief in the snake obscured reality and affected how he responded. So in Zen, we are invited to become more and more intimate with the way things are and less obscured by our reactivity and beliefs. So what if this I, me, and mine is just a perspective? It's just a perspective on reality. It's just a perspective on the way things are. It's the perspective of I, me, and mine, but it's not. It's just one way to see things. A perspective among many perspectives. This is what Dogen in the Genjo Koan is continuously pointing to, using mirrors, boats, fish, birds, moon, weeds, flowers. Uses all these to point to our perspective, to open our perspective to the whole universe. To see beyond this one perspective, the one that we favor, due to our habits, our habitual thinking. And it's reinforced by other people who reinforce the fact that we're an I, me, and mine by just our own interactions. So what if it's just a perspective? See for yourself. Investigate for yourself. And the way that we do that is with nearness, not standing outside. It's with nearness. It's allowing that experience to be very, very close. In the Genjo Koan that we're chanting, Dogen says, seeing forms with the whole body and mind, hearing sounds with the whole body and mind. One understands them intimately. Yet it is not like a mirror with reflections, nor like water under the moon. When one side is realized, the other side is dark. Seeing forms with the whole body and mind. This is the experiencing that, the intimate experiencing that we're talking about. And in a way, we can't see other than with the whole body and mind. The whole body and mind is engaged all the time. And our view can be narrowed through our limited perspective. So this first part, seeing forms with the whole body and mind, hearing sounds with the whole body and mind, one understands them intimately. There's that word again, intimacy. Totally alert and engaged. This is about pointing to non-separation. You can't separate what is seen from the eye. You can't separate what is seen is not separate from the eye that sees and the actual seeing. The whole body and mind, the whole thing is in seeing. You can't separate out what is heard. That which is heard can't be separated from the ear, which can't be separated from the hearing. You can't separate the person from the hearing and seeing and the eye and the ear and the hearing and the seeing and the air and the space and the atoms and the gravity and. It's one total experience all at once. And this is because it's not isolated, because you can't separate the person from the hearing and the sound and the seeing and the object and the eye and the ear and the hearing and the seeing and the air. We can't separate you from the universe, from what is happening. One understands them intimately. Seeing with the whole body and mind, seeing forms with the body and mind, hearing sounds with the whole body and mind. One understands them intimately. And how do we understand intimately? With nearness, with not knowing. It's not just the drawing near, because you can get really close and still be separate. The not knowing part. Dropping the knowing. Oh, I'm bored with my breath. That's a separation. Because you don't know this breath that's happening right now. You've never breathed it before, ever. And you won't again. It's gone. Boredom is a subtle resistance. It's resisting intimacy. It's a stepping back. So again, we don't judge ourselves and say like, oh, I'm doing it wrong. We say, oh, that's an invitation. Oh, I notice I'm pulling back. What's that made of? What's that about? It's all an invitation. Not evaluation. It's all an invitation to become more and more intimate. Yet it is not like a mirror with reflections, nor like water under the moon. Yet it is not like a mirror with reflections, nor like water under the moon. It's not like that. So Dogen uses the moon and water in many ways in Genjo Koan. In a way you could say, later on he says, it is like water and mirror in the moon. He's very tricky like that, constantly shifting perspectives. So just as we talked about the perspective of the rope and the snake, the I, me, and mine, it's just a perspective. Within the Genjo Koan, he's shifting perspectives. So in this perspective, he's saying it's not like a mirror with reflections, nor like water under the moon. So what he's pointing to in this is conventional perspective. So we would say that the image in a mirror is not the thing, right? So we're looking in a mirror, we see our reflection. What's in the mirror is, I'm here and there's the reflection. That's the reflection. In a conventional way, that's true. It's a reflection. We say that the moon is in the sky. It's not in the water. We see the reflection. That's not the moon. Now later on in the Genjo Koan, he will say it's the moon. It's not the moon. So he's pointing to conventional thing. He's saying here it's not like that. In this case, Dogen is saying it's not separate like that. The intimacy of total engaged experiencing, feeling with the whole body and mind, seeing with the whole body and mind, is not the conventional experiencing. So from this perspective, the person is not a mere reflection of what is happening. What is happening out there, we're not just simply a reflection of that. You can't separate the person from the hearing and seeing, and the eye and the ear from the hearing, and the space and the atoms and the gravity and the birds and the marigolds. It's one total experience all at once. When one side is realized, the other side is dark. What is this about? So in the realization of one seamless experiencing, there's all phenomenon is there. Everything that's happening is within the seamless experiencing of reality. There's the 10,000 dharmas, all phenomenon in their sparkling expression as the way things are, as one universe. So when that is apprehended, the 10,000 things, one universe, the side that is dark is the small self of I, me, and mine. It's not that it's disappeared, but it's just subsumed within the whole. It's just another part of the 10,000 things. It's not separate. It's just another phenomenon, like crickets or stink bugs or soup, bread, sunlight, frogs. So what Dogen points to over and over again is that the realization of this truth can be experienced. So the other way to look at this is that when the small self of I, me, and mine is illuminated, then the 10,000 things are dark, because they're not being apprehended as the way things are. They're being apprehended in relation to this perspective. So not only can this be experienced, it is being experienced. You're already experiencing it. And through our practice, through our zazen, this can be realized, this can be seen. So I'd like to close with a poem from a Zen teacher, Kosho Uchiyama. This is called Life and Death. Kosho Uchiyama was a 20th century Japanese Zen teacher. There's more that can be said. He's wrote a wonderful book called Opening the Hand of Thought, which is another pointing to receptivity of Zazen. So after he finished teaching, he retired and to spend time with his wife, and he wrote poetry. And here's one of his poems, Life and Death. Water isn't formed by being ladled into a bucket. Simply the water of the whole universe has been ladled into a bucket. The water does not disappear because it has been scattered over the ground. It is only that the water of the whole universe has been emptied into the whole universe. Life is not born because a person is born. The life of the whole universe has been ladled into the hardened idea called I. Life does not disappear because a person dies. Simply, the life of the whole universe has been poured out of this hardened idea of I back into the universe. Thank you.